Hi, y'all, what's going on? Welcome to View from the Man Cave, a place for honest, informative, and intellectual dialogue and discourse about all things related to masculinity and manhood, provision and protection, responsibility and respect. So let's talk about it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. All right, y'all, what's going on, man? What's up with it? Y'all know what it is. You know who it is. It's your man, Frank, View from the Man Cave. Just something to like, just something to comment on, just something to subscribe to, and just something to share. All right, today, man, on this Friday, November 13th, Friday the 13th, I'm going to hit y'all with the next edition of the Sweet Science series. I started this series a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed the first one, so I figured I'm going to come back, man, hit y'all with round two. So the first one I did was with Gervonta Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz. It was an amazing fight, action-packed, lots of twists and turns, lots of highs and lows, and it went exactly the way that I predicted it. You know what I mean? I'm not a psychic or anything like that, but the fight went exactly the way I predicted it would go. I thought that Leo Santa Cruz would come out very aggressive, throwing a lot of punches. I thought that Gervonta Tank Davis would take his time, would try to work the body a little bit, would try to land his power shots, preferably the uppercut, the left uppercut. And I thought that he would knock Leo Santa Cruz out. He would get the stoppage or the KO in the middle to late rounds. And that's exactly what happened. Shout out to Gervonta Tank Davis for an amazing fight. And shout out to Leo Santa Cruz, who was very much game. He was very much active and showed no fear. So I'm proud of that brother. I'm proud and I'm happy for Gervonta Tank Davis and winning that fight. And adding some extra belts to his to his trophy room. So today we're going to talk about Terence Crawford and Kell Brook. This fight is going to take place tomorrow or Saturday, November 14th on ESPN. To my understanding, the fight is going to be free. So if you have ESPN, tap in on your cable, your Fire Stick, your Roku, whatever you have. If you have ESPN, tap in to ESPN tomorrow evening, Saturday evening around, I think, 7:30 or 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and check out the fight. Obviously, it's going to have an undercard. The undercard is very good. And then the main event, the headliner, is going to be Terence Crawford versus Kell Brook. So this fight is important for both fighters. Mainly, Bud Crawford is an incredible fighter. He's pound for pound in the top 3 on everybody's list. The majority of people have Terence Crawford at number 1 pound for pound in the world. And even though he's a great fighter, he's mainly famous for what he's done in smaller weight classes, preferably the lightweight division and light welterweight divisions during his career. To date, he hasn't beaten anyone of significance in the welterweight division, which is where this fight is going to take place. So this fight is very important for him because since 2018, since he moved up to the 147-pound weight division, the welterweight division, he does not have any significant wins under his belt. There are lots of elite fighters in the welterweight division. You have guys like Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, tons of welterweights, premium fighters, elite fighters in the welterweight division. And to date, Terence Crawford has not fought any of them. So this fight is very important for Bud because he needs to prove his pound for pound ranking. He needs to step up in this division and start to fight some elite fighters in the welterweight division and beat them convincingly. If he can do that, that will cement his legacy as a pound for pound great. But as of right now, he hasn't done anything in this division to garner the respect that he's been given, in my personal opinion. Crawford has fought some guys. He's fought Amir Khan. He's fought Jeff Horn, a few other guys, but none of them are fighters that you would consider elite in the welterweight division. So he has to step up, fight some big-time fighters, get some wins under his belt, and cement his legacy as one of the pound-for-pound greats in the welterweight division. This fight is important for Kell Brook because Kell Brook hasn't really had any significant wins in his career in the last probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 years. The biggest win he's had in the welterweight division was against Sean Porter, which is where he won his title. And since that fight, he has no significant wins in his career. So the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years in his career, he hasn't had really any big wins. He moved all the way up from 147 pounds to 160 pounds to fight Triple G. He was very game in that fight. He fought hard, but he lost. It was a medical stoppage. He had one of his orbital bones broken in his eye, so he had to stop. His corner threw in the towel. They had to quit. And then right after that fight, fighting Triple G, who was a pound for pound top 2 or 3 guy at the time, and breaking a bone in his eye, breaking his orbital bone in his eye. His very next fight, he comes all the way back down from 160 pounds to 147 pounds, and he fights Errol Spence, who is my favorite fighter, who's the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world, in my opinion. So he takes no break, he takes no layoff, he takes no tune-up fight. He goes from Triple G, loses 13 to 15 pounds, comes all the way back down to welterweight, and fights Errol Spence. And even in that fight, he was very game. He fought hard. The fight was pretty even through the first 5 or 6 rounds. And then the bone in his eye was broken again. The orbital bone in his eye was broken again. And he had to stop that fight too. So that was a stoppage and a KO victory for Errol Spence. So in the 3 biggest fights of his career, of Kell Brook's career, he's 1 and 2. And he hasn't really had any signature wins in the last 3, 4, 5 years. So this fight is very important for Kell because he wants to show that he's still an elite fighter in the welterweight division. He wants to show that his name, still rings bells. It still means something. And that when you mention the top welterweights, that you have to put his name in that conversation. And so he's fighting to basically stay relevant, to stay hot, to stay in the upper echelons of boxing in the welterweight division. So this fight is very, very important for both fighters, for different reasons, of course, but the fight is very important for both fighters. So let's get into the tale of the tape. So first, we're going to have Kell Brook. Kell Brook is 34 years old. He's had 41 fights. He's had 39 wins, 2 losses, as I talked about before. Those 2 losses coming to Triple G and Errol Spence. 27 knockouts. He's 5'9", 69.5-inch reach. He has an orthodox stance. His nationality is British. He's from Great Britain, and he's called a special one. So Kell Brook is a very entertaining fighter. He can box. He can counterpunch. He uses his jab well. His best punch, in my opinion, is his straight right hand. Being an orthodox fighter, he's going to jab with his left hand, and his power hand is his right hand. So from looking at his fights, from looking at some of his highlights and studying his career, in my opinion, his best punch is the straight right hand. So look for that over the course of the fight. But Kell Brook is a great fighter. He's been in the ring with some big time fighters, some Hall of Fame fighters, and he's held his own. Even in his 2 defeats, he's held his own. So Kell Brook is a great fighter. I think he's going to be very game for this fight. So both of these guys have their weights. The weigh-in was earlier today, and both fighters made weight. They both made weight at 147 pounds. So I know there were some issues and concerns about Kell Brook making weight, being that he's kind of fluctuated between 147 pounds and 160 pounds. But the brother's in amazing shape. He came in at 147 and a half, I believe. And Terence Bud Crawford came in at 147 flat, 147 even. So both guys are in shape. Both guys made weight, and both guys are ready to go. So next we're going to do the tail of the tape for Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford is 33 years old. He's had 36 fights. He's won every fight. He has 27 wins by way of knockout. He's 5'8". He's an inch shorter than Kell Brook. He has a 74-inch reach, so he has about a 5-inch reach advantage against Kell Brook. So I'm looking for him to utilize that in the course of the fight tomorrow night. And Bud Crawford, Terence Bud Crawford, is a switch hitter. That is his stance. What do I mean by switch hitter? Switch hitter in sports means that you can do multiple things. In baseball, it means that you have a guy who can hit or who bats left-handed or right-handed. In boxing, it means the same thing. It means that over the course of a fight, Terence Bud Crawford can change his stance from an orthodox fighter to a southpaw fighter. Now, southpaw fighters are guys who use their left hand as their dominant hand. So Terence Bud Crawford is very versatile with his stance. He's known for that. Stylistically, Crawford is known for being exceptionally fast, having fast hands, having great speed in the ring. He has great elite level ring IQ, punching power. He's a great counter puncher, and he has great defense. He's a complete fighter all the way around. And like I said, he has the ability to comfortably switch hit from orthodox to a southpaw stance. And like I said, in boxing, switch hitting just refers to the ability to change boxing stances mid-fight between an orthodox stance, meaning a right-handed preference straight, and a left-handed preference for his jab, and a southpaw stance, which is the exact opposite. So this makes it very difficult to beat a guy like Bud because he can do so many things in the ring. You know what I mean? Normally when you're in a fight or when you're competing against someone, you develop a game plan based off of their skill set. So if a guy is a southpaw fighter, you develop a game plan to fight a southpaw. And the same with the orthodox fighter. But when you have a fighter like Bud Crawford, who's a switch hitter, who within the course of a fight, who within the course of a round can switch his stance from southpaw to orthodox, and he's elite at both, that makes it very difficult for you to beat him. That makes it very difficult for you to formulate a game plan to try to beat him, because he can do so many things well. He does so many things at an elite level. So it just makes him that much more difficult to beat. All right, so now we're going to get to the keys to victory. So Kell Brook, his keys to victory are simple. They both come in at 147 pounds, and Terence Bud Crawford is an inch taller and has a 5-inch reach advantage. But Kell Brook is he's a thicker, more stockier fighter. So I think he'll have the ability, more so than Bud, to kind of throw his weight around, to throw his size and his girth around in the ring. I think he can physically impose his will on Terence. Terence isn't necessarily a fighter who likes to brawl. So I think that Kell definitely has a size advantage. He's a thicker fighter. And I think he should be able to use that to his advantage in the ring, hopefully, for his sake. Also, I would give the power edge to Kell Brook. Bud Crawford is an amazing fighter. He has knockout power, obviously, having 36 wins and 27 knockouts. But I would give the power advantage to Kell Brook. Kell Brook has fought at 160 pounds. You know what I mean? He's fought guys like Triple G, and he held his own in some of these big time fights against some big, strong, powerful guys. You know, he was able to land some good shots, you know, back some guys up in certain instances and certain spurts in the fight. So if you can step up to 160 pounds and fight a guy like Triple G, I would give him the power advantage. So I think that he'll have to, in order for him to win, he's going to have to maximize his power, preferably with his straight right hand. I think that's the money punch for him. I think that's his money shot. I think if he can consistently land the straight right hand, I think that will give him a chance of beating Terence Bud Crawford. But he's going to have to utilize his size. He's going to have to utilize his power, preferably setting up his spacing with his left jab and coming straight down the middle with the straight right hand. I think that if he can do that, he will increase his chances of winning this fight. Lastly, a key to victory for Kell Brook is his experience. Kell Brook has been in some big fights. Kell Brook has been in the ring with some of the pound for pound best fighters in the world. He's lost some of those. He's lost, on the two biggest stages he's been on, he's lost. But he has the experience. I don't think this fight is going to make him nervous. I don't think he's going to try to overextend himself. I think he's going to be very confident in his abilities. And I think he's very comfortable in this setting. So I think he can use his experience to his advantage. Being in fights against guys like Triple G, Errol Spence, beating a Sean Porter. I think that he can use those experiences to help him in the ring. I don't think at any point in the fight will get too big for him. It'll be too much for him. Even if he takes some big shots, even if he gets dropped, I think, his experience will be able to help him over the course of the fight. So he's going to have to lean on that, his size, his power, and his experience. And if he can lean on those things, and if he can use those things effectively, Kell Brook has a solid chance of winning this fight tomorrow night. Now let's get to the keys to victory for Terence Bud Crawford. Now, Terence Bud Crawford, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Bud is the better fighter. He's the better boxer overall. Bud has a huge speed advantage. He's very fast with his hands. He's very fast with his combinations. He has excellent footwork. He uses his angles well in the ring to put himself in a position to hit and not get hit. He is a trainer's dream. If you're a boxing purist dream, if you're a boxing purist like me, who loves the sport, who loves the sweet science, Terence Crawford is one of your favorite fighters. He can do it all. But in this fight, he's going to have a huge speed advantage. So he's going to have to use that to his ability. He's going to have to use that to the best of his ability. Work the ring, move, work his angles, throw his combinations. I think he's going to be able to land a lot of combinations. He's very fast. He's very much faster than Kell Brook. So I think he's going to be able to use that to his advantage, opening up 3, 5, 7 punch combinations, moving in and out of range. He has the advantage there. So I just think that with the speed, I think Terence, the only way I see Terence hurting himself in this fight is if, being that he really wants to cement his legacy in the welterweight division, and he hasn't fought or beat anyone of significance yet. So he could come out very fast, throwing a lot of punches, trying to go for the knockout and things like that. And even with that, he's going to have to display his speed. So he has a clear advantage there in the speed department. Also, Terence Crawford is longer. He has a 74-inch reach. He has a 5-inch reach advantage against Kell Brook. So I think where Kell Brook is going to want to get inside more, he's going to want to work the body, come up top with his power shots, set up his spacing for the straight right hand. I think it plays to Terence Crawford's advantage to use his length, especially early in the fight. Use your jab. Use his jab. Get his spacing in order. Use his length. You know what I mean? Put himself in a position where he can hit and not get hit. So I think if he uses his length and stays out of range and is able to connect with his jab and his straight right or his straight left, because he's a switch hitter, he can do both. He's going to have a great chance of winning this fight. And lastly, his keys to victory is to use his diversity. We talked about that earlier. Terence Bud Crawford is a switch hitter. He can display both stances, an orthodox stance and a southpaw stance at an elite level. So I think his keys to victory is to simultaneously switch up his stances, confuse Kell Brook. I don't know how many guys Kell Brook has fought who are switch hitters, who have the talent of a guy like Terence Crawford. So Terence needs to use that to his advantage. Switch things up, confuse Kell. Have him not being able to understand what he sees. If he has to think, he's going to get hit. He has to take time to think about what he's saying and defend for that and game plan for that. And if he's doing that, he's not on the offensive. He has to play defensive. He has to play defense the majority of the fight. So Bud really needs to use his diversity in the ring. Switch it up, between the orthodox and the southpaw stance, over the course of the fight, over the course of a round. Switch it up, confuse him. So I think if Bud can use his speed advantage, his length advantage, and his advantage being a very diverse fighter, being a fighter that uses multiple stances, I think he has a great chance of winning this fight. So I think this fight is going to be very entertaining. I think both fighters are going to come in very much game. They both have a huge stake in this fight. They both have something to prove. This fight is very important for them. Bud is trying to make a name for himself in the welterweight division, and Kell Brook is trying to keep his name relevant in the welterweight division. So both guys have a lot on the table. They have a lot to fight for. I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight. It's going to be a boxing purist dream, seeing the different stances, seeing the way these guys can punch, counter punch, watching their footwork and things like that. I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight. I'm very much looking forward to watching it. But my prediction is Bud Crawford. I predict that Bud Crawford is going to win this fight by KO or stoppage in the late rounds. I think that over the course of this fight, I think early on in the fight, in the early to middle rounds, I think that Kell Brook is going to be very game. I think he's going to come in the ring confident. I think he's going to have his moments in the fight. I think he'll land some big shots. I think he'll surprise Bud Crawford with his power. But I think that Terence Crawford is the better fighter. He's the more complete fighter. He has punching power as well. And I think that over the course of the fight, he's going to wear Kell Brook down. I don't know how much his orbital bone will play into this fight, but Kell Brook in his only two defeats, it was a medical stoppage because he broke a bone in his eye. So I'm not sure where his eye is at. I'm sure that Terence is going to probably try to take advantage of that with some of his punches, some of his combinations to try to test that eye out. But I just think over the course of the fight, the better fighter is going to win. I think Terence Crawford has too much at stake to overlook this guy. So I think he's going to come in ready to go. I think he's going to put on a masterful performance. I think he's going to land a lot of big shots, a lot of combinations. I think he's going to confuse Kell. I can see Kell getting dropped. I can see him getting knocked down and getting stopped. I don't know if Bud has the power to knock him out, with one shot to the earlier mid rounds. That's not really Bud's. It's not really his thing. But I think over the course of the fight, towards the middle to late rounds, anywhere between like 6 and 10, maybe 8 and 10, I think that the superior fighter, Terence Bud Crawford, is going to take over. I think it's going to be one-sided in the later rounds, and I think he's going to eventually stop Kell Brook between rounds 8 and 10. So where does Terence Crawford go from here? When he gets the win, it is my prediction that he's going to get this win by KO or stoppage in the middle to late rounds. I think that Terence, after this win, he has to step up. He has to fight some elite level competition. When I was doing research for this video, I read that Bob Arum wants to have Bud Crawford fight Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence in 2021 next year. So those are the two big fights that people want to see. Me preferably, I would like to see him fight Errol Spence, but I can see him fighting Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is a Hall of Famer. He's still fighting at an elite level, and and he's still a pay-per-view draw. People still love Manny Pacquiao. They will watch him fight. They will pay to watch him fight. So I can understand him fighting Manny Pacquiao. And also, Bud Crawford is about to be a free agent. So in boxing, you have promotional companies. So Terence Crawford is managed by Top Rank, which is the company owned and operated by Bob Arum. And so Terence Crawford hasn't really fought a lot of elite fighters, not necessarily because he doesn't want to fight them or he's afraid of them, but because he's on Top Rank, and all of the other elite fighters in his division, in the welterweight division, most of them are signed to PBC, to another promotional company. And so because a lot of those other top welterweights are on another promotional company, they're fighting each other. And Terence hasn't been able to fight any of them because of contracts, because of money, things like that. So the other welterweights that are on the PBC side are guys like Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter. All of these guys are on the other, they work for the other promotional company, or the other promotional company works for them. So it's easier for them to fight one another, to get the contracts written up, to make sure the money is straight. So these guys are fighting each other and making, huge gains, making legacies for themselves, fighting other elite welterweights. And because Bud is on the other side at Top Rank, and Top Rank and PBC really don't like each other that much, so they haven't been able to work out a lot of contractual issues. Terence has kind of been on the outside looking in, waiting to fight some of these elite welterweights. So I think that if Bob Arum can't get this fight between Manny Pacquiao, and Manny Pacquiao is on PBC as well, but if Bob Arum can't get a super fight lined up for Bud Crawford, I's dotted, T's crossed, contract signed, then I think Terence Crawford leaves and probably goes to join the PBC. He's going to be a free agent very soon. So we'll see if Bob Arum can walk on the other side and get a mega fight signed and ready to go for Bud, preferably against Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence. And we'll see what happens with that. But that's what I think the future holds for Terence Crawford. I think he's going to have a mega fight next year, Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence. And then he'll just move on. We'll see if he's the great fighter that he's shown himself to be for the most part. We'll see if he can maintain his level of dominance, his level of superior boxing skill against some tougher opponents, some better fighters. So Kell Brook, I think that once Kell Brook loses tomorrow night, I think he's going to just become another fighter. I think he's going to become a guy who young fighters will fight in order to make a name for themselves. But I really don't see Kell Brook being mentioned in the conversation with other elite welterweights. I don't know if he'll put himself in a position, or if he'll be in a position where he can fight an elite welterweight. So I'm not sure what will happen with Kell Brook. I think he's still a very solid fighter. When he does lose this fight, and that is my prediction, his only 3 losses will come to 3 of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. So it's not like he lost to a Class B or a Class C fighter or a bum or something like that. He would have lost to 3 of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. So that's nothing to drop your head about. There's nothing to be upset about or disappointed or frustrated about. Those are some 99% of all the fighters in the world would lose to Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, and Triple G. I mean, it is what it is. So hopefully, man, you guys can watch this fight tomorrow night on ESPN. If you have ESPN, you have cable, your Roku, your Fire Stick, whatever, tap into ESPN, watch the fight, enjoy yourself, man. Have a great weekend. Spend some time with your loved ones. If you got to go outside, put that mask on. You dig? Stay 6 feet away from people. And y'all be safe, man. I'll see y'all on Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for my next live show. Y'all be good. 1.